Christianity is the world's largest religion, and it should come as no surprise that Christianity has a lot of subdivisions and sects within it. This video will be about the early schisms and sects of Christianity as an overview video about them, generally. So all the major schisms and sects before the year 1000. And the definition of Christianity that this video is going to use is any religious group that saw Jesus as the main religious figurehead of their movement. Following the crucifixion of Jesus and the various events surrounding it, whether they be history or myth, Christianity began as a small sect of Judaism. A sect that was viewed as being rather strange and faced early persecutions by, for example, the Roman state, but also by other Jewish groups. Despite this, the early Christians managed to spread, and as they were not under one singular authority, despite claims otherwise, they very quickly diversified into various subgroups all around the ancient world, because Christianity also spread outside of the Roman Empire. And there was a lot of various smaller sects. Yet generally you could classify various Christian groups at this time as belonging to some of the following categories. First, you have Judeo-Christians. These are Christians that still follow the old laws and are pretty much just a Jewish sect that admit Jesus as being a Jewish leader or prophet. Then secondly, we have various mystical groups that thought that Jesus was some kind of way into a higher state of the world, and not just a bearer about Jewish law and traditions, or a prophet about an afterlife. It is in this group, for example, you see the Gnostics and other mystical early Christian sects, but as an incarnation of an higher truth itself, that you as a believer could partake in or even become a part of. Various early Christian sects were very mystical in their teachings. Thirdly, you have a group of strict monotheistical Christians with an Unitarian view of God, best represented by Ayres and his later Arianist followers. These are Christians that rejected that Jesus was God. Rather, they saw him as a human prophet of God. Then you have the Trinitarians, those that believed in what would become the classical view of the Trinity in Christianity. And this group could be largely divided into two groups, though there were many more in this group, into the Trinitarian Miaphysites, who thought that Jesus was of one nature in the Trinity that combined both the human and the divine, and the Trinitarian Diaphysites, who thought that Jesus was of two natures, one human and one divine, as part of the greater Trinity. Now, it should be emphasized that there did not exist clear lines between all of these groups early, as various groups within these categories interacted a lot with each other and had various traits that could make them be categorized in several of these categories. But these are the categories that you could define various groups of Christianity into before any type of Christianity became the official state religion of any political entity. And speaking about Christianity becoming the state religion of a political entity, the first official type of Christianity as a state religion wasn't in Rome, but in Armenia, when Tiridates III in the year 301 made Christianity the official religion, making the Armenian Apostolic Orthodox Church the official religion. This type of Christianity had its origin in Trinitarian Miaphysite Christian groups. And as for another Miaphysite church that would become very important, the beginnings of the Ethiopian Tawahido Oriental Orthodox Miaphysite Church in Ethiopia began with Emperor Ezana of Aksum making Christianity the state religion of the Aksumite Empire, a large African empire which I have made a video about. The Ethiopian church would also take great inspiration from early Judeo-Christian groups, and thus preserve the concept of the law, as in the Old Testament law tradition, still being valid within Christianity. Outside of Armenia and the Empire of Aksum, there were also some other smaller types of Christianity that evolved elsewhere outside of the Roman Empire, though these have not survived to our day, except for the East Church tradition, of which the current Assyrian Church is a descendant. This tradition had its origin in certain mystical traditions that thought that Jesus was both human and divine, as separate persons or independent natures that met in interaction in one being, rather than being unified in one being. As for Roman Christianity, Christianity was made the most powerful religion in Rome under Constantine the Great, though not made the official state religion until Emperor Theodosius I issued the Edict of Thessalonica in 380. It should be noted regarding these churches that since they appeared in different locations and became standardized in different ways, they have different canons, that is to say, different scriptures that are included in the Bible. So these churches, the Armenian Church, the Aksumite Church, the churches of the East, that had been adopted by a lot of smaller Middle Eastern entities, and the Roman Church, all had different Bibles from the beginning. And these weren't the only groups of Christians. Remember, there existed a lot of Christian groups that didn't have an official state church representing them. And also, when it came to Rome, Constantine had not yet decided what was to be the official version of Christianity. Thus, inside of the Roman Empire, the first Council of Nicaea in 325 AD was held, the first church council, where various leaders of various Christian groups within the Roman Empire and also outside of the Roman Empire gathered to decide what was Christianity, what was to be included in real Christianity, so to speak. In the Council of Nicaea, it was decided that Trinitarianism was to be the main theological view of Christianity. That's to say, that God is divided in the Father, the Spirit, and the Son. Though they didn't decide about the nature of Jesus, about either being a Miaphysite or of Diaphysite nature, or of some other natures. Yet, Trinitarianism being established as the official church doctrine meant that certain mystical groups, such as the Gnostics and the Arianists, and other types of Christianity that didn't agree with the Trinitarian doctrine, were excluded as being part of the Roman church tradition. The Arians would thus split off and form their own church, which would actually be pretty influential and be a main competitor to Roman Trinitarian views of God. And though the Arian Christians would eventually die out, they would actually manage to convert a lot of Germanic tribes and still have rather substantial support among certain Roman Christian groups. As for the matter of the old Jewish law, it still remained in the air after the Council of Nicaea. However, that would be changed in later councils. But before that, during the Council of Ephesus, Nestorianism and similar theologies would be condemned, which would mean that the churches of the East Church traditions would be considered heretical by the Roman Church tradition and by the other Oriental Orthodox churches. And during the Fourth Ecumenical Church Council of the Christian churches, held in Chalcedon, modern Kadıköy in Turkey, in 451, it was decided that Diaphysitism, that is to say that Jesus is of two natures, is the true view of Christianity, which made all of the Miaphysite Oriental Orthodox churches not part of true Christianity in the Roman Church view. So here you see a denouncement of the Miaphysites, both of the churches outside of the Roman Empire, like the Axumite Church and the Armenian Church, and other smaller groups that were Miaphysites but outside of the Roman sphere of control, and of the Christian groups that were Miaphysites but within the Roman Empire and the Roman church tradition. Here you have, for example, the Coptic Church in Egypt, which due to its Miaphysite views upon Christianity became denounced. You would later also have the Syriac Orthodox Church splitting with the Roman Church due to this council. But that actually happens later, in the year 518, due to embracing Miaphysite views. Now, it is important to note here that the Roman Church at this time has not yet divided into the Roman Catholic Church and the Roman Orthodox churches, but is simply the Roman Church. And when you hear the word Orthodox, meaning rightly believing, it can either refer to the churches that split off from the Roman tradition of Christianity in 1054 during the Great Schism, which I will go through in a later video, or it can refer to the Oriental Orthodox churches that followed Miaphysite beliefs, such as the Syriac Church, the Coptic Church, the Armenian Apostolic Church, the Ethiopic Tawhidish Orthodox Church, and many more, and their descending schismatic subgroups. These Oriental Orthodox churches are in many cases separate church traditions, though some are still in communion and consider themselves to be one unified church. For example, the Ethiopic Orthodox Church is considered the same church as the Coptic Church in Egypt. Though even in this case it should be noted that the Ethiopic Church has a different Bible canon from the Coptic Church, which descends more directly from the Roman tradition when it comes to the Copts. And there are also some other differences when it comes to, for example, the view of the Jewish law and its importance in Christianity. It is also important to not confuse the Oriental Orthodox churches for being the same as the churches of the Eastern tradition or the churches of the East, as that tradition is not based upon Miaphysitism, but upon a view of Jesus as having two natures that are separate and interacting independently. So it is not the same either as the Diaphysite view of the Roman church tradition, where you see Jesus as having two natures that are unified in one person. Anyway, this was a very rough overview of the various Christian groups that existed in earlier Christianity. I could have gone into much more detail about certain matters here, but I just wanted to give a general overview and mention only the largest and most influential of groups. Thus I skipped over some minor groups that existed and a lot of detail about certain matters that also led to these schisms. But I do hope that you, my viewers, still found this interesting, and stay tuned for future videos about the various subgroups within Christianity. Please do subscribe, as it would help the channel spread awareness about the humanities.
اشتركوا بالقناة المفضلة.